Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mason Plus. Well, the world is excited. The world is buzzing because the World Cup has come to North America. The Team USA, the men's national team, will play Paraguay on the 12th at SoFi Stadium. On the 11th, Mexico is going to be playing. So the World Cup is going to be in full swing a little bit later on this week. And so I put together this World Cup preview. A little bit later on, Dave Denholm, voice of LAFC, and Pepe Mantilla, who has been to, I think, 7 World Cups, has called action for multiple World Cups. Of course, Spanish language voice of the Lakers. You get him to say little short, brief statements on Mason and Ireland. He sort of gets swallowed up by that, but we're going to give him a time to talk about the sport that he most loves. But first, I am unbelievably honored and privileged to have been able to speak with Andrés Cantor, who is the voice of soccer. He does all the games for Telemundo. Here is a preview of the World Cup with Andrés Cantor. It is an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Steve. It's my pleasure to be on. How are you?
I am great, man. I am great. Ready for the World Cup. So I'm wondering, 1994 you did the World Cup, and did you have a sense 3 decades ago that you were introducing the United States to sort of soccer culture?
Not really. I went about doing my job. This is a crazy story because for the 1990, 1994, and 1998 World Cup, I was the only play-by-play announcer of Univision, the network I worked for, that carried the games. And I called every single game of each one of those World Cups, which is like absolutely just crazy to think that happened. So I was just really busy doing my job. And obviously in 1994, my career took a turn. I could say that there's a before and after because of all the noise and all the attention my goal call received during that World Cup. But honestly, I was just, concentrating on the next game, which were plenty.
Yeah, there were absolutely plenty of those. So you grew up in Argentina. Do people understand how unlikely your path has been from kid in Buenos Aires to the United States to the voice of soccer? What has that journey been like?
Looking back and knowing, the fiber of our country, I could probably tell you that this is the American dream realized. Because obviously I came as a teen with my parents from Argentina to the United States. I finished my last year in high school in LA at San Marino High School. I went to USC. I wanted to be a journalist. I had no intention of being in radio or TV. I was writing and working as a correspondent for a very well-known publishing company in Argentina. And one of those, lucky turns of life put me in front of a camera and a microphone to call my first soccer game way back in February of 1987. Fast forward to today, I've been doing this for 40 years. And it's just, I always say, Steve, every time I'm afforded the best seat in the house, whether at the Olympics, at the World Cup, at any major sporting event that I cover, I still pinch myself. So to answer your question, unimaginable, the American dream realized, and nothing like live television, huh? My God.
No, nothing like it. No, that's all fine.
And one of those lucky turns in life where I get called for an audition. The guy that hired me liked my way of calling the game and hired me to be here talking with you so many years later.
Yeah, so you are world famous, and I mean literally world famous for the way you call a goal. I'm wondering, over the years, how did it start and how has that goal call evolved over the years?
It started the only way I knew how a goal was supposed to be called, because I grew up listening to Argentine radio most of all. On TV, I think they yell the goal the same way, but I always say the same thing, and I am very repetitive because I want to make sure that no one thinks I invented anything. I did not. I just helped popularize a way we have in Latin America for calling soccer games, being it radio or TV. I was very, very lucky to be obviously calling the 1994 World Cup. Like I said, they couldn't get away from me because I was calling every game. So anytime you turned on the TV during the day, it was my voice calling games. So how it evolved? Obviously, I found my own voice. As I told you, I had no prior experience in a TV booth, let alone a radio booth. So I had to, grow with learning the trade of calling a game on live television and finding my own voice. And the go, I guess, has evolved as much as my voice has evolved. I get the voice. Luckily doesn't get tired, so I have still the same energy as I have the very first time I did it.
Yeah, it is so, every time you do it, it is so memorable. So I'm wondering, we're a few days now before the start of the World Cup. What is your schedule like? Are you cramming? Are you studying rosters and storylines and pronunciations and all that stuff? How do you get ready now?
All of that. The official rosters just came out, so I'm going one by one. I know the teams I'm going to be calling. I will be on the road all throughout the first phase of the tournament. I will be, I believe, in 8 cities in all 3 countries within 2 weeks. So it's game day travel, with the exception of Vancouver. I call the Canada game, and then I have a noon game in Seattle the next day. So we're traveling by car from Vancouver to Seattle so I can make the US-Australia match. So it's easy in the sense that most of the teams that I will be covering, I already know. I've seen throughout the last 4 years, either in World Cup qualifying, Gold Cups. I know the US national team very well. I know the Argentinian national team very well. So I'm trying to, I know Germany, I know, the major powerhouses. So I do get to call a game from Qatar when they play Canada. I do get to call a game from Curacao when they play Germany. So I'm watching film, I'm studying their moves. And obviously the pronunciation will be key. Usually FIFA puts out a pronunciation guide done by the players themselves in their native tongue, which that's probably the hardest part, because I'm doing play-by-play in Spanish at 3x, and I have to remember how the Dutch pronounce their last names, or the Austrians or the Algerians. So I will try, obviously, my best, because I'm very, very obsessive in the way I call my games, and I think the audience deserves. I get criticized a lot when I call the players the way they call themselves, because in Spanish, I'll give you a perfect example: Kevin De Bruyne.
Okay.
De Bruyne, the Belgian player. As far as I know and heard him say, it's De Bruyne. So I will go De Bruyne. And, I'll get heat in social media, because in Spanish it would be De Bruyne. The Spanish.
But you call it the way they say it.
I tried to call the names the way they call their names, yes.
Yeah. So this is the first time the field has expanded to 48 teams. In your mind, does that let more deserving teams in, or does it water down the field a little bit?
It does not let in deserving teams, because obviously the extra teams, I guess if they're there and qualified, they deserve to be there. That's part of the answer. But then without the expanded field, they wouldn't have been. in some cases, not in all of them, it is not Curaçao's fault that Costa Rica and Honduras, or Jamaica for that matter, that are usually powerhouses in our region, failed. So, I mean, Curaçao did not benefit from the expanded field. They won it on the pitch. Does it dilute the quality? I would say so. What I'm saying, Steve, is that you can put 100 countries playing the World Cup, and at the end of the day, in the last week, we will have always the same expected Final Four, being England, Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, England. Those six will always most likely be around, whether with a 32-team tournament, with a 64-team tournament, with a 100-team tournament. So it's a lot more soccer to consume. We'll be on air for Telemundo for 10 hours a day.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy, but we shall see how this experiment goes. And I guarantee you, unless there's a major surprise, that one of those six, 4 of those 6 will be around in the final week of the tournament.
So you called the USA Senegal match in Charlotte here last week. And I'm wondering from you, give us a preview of what you think of the U.S. men's national team. How good are we? How far they can go? All that.
I have no answer to your question, unfortunately. And I have to be very, very careful in the way I answer these type of questions, because these games, I was very impressed with the first half the U.S. played against Senegal. But then they changed 11 players, which is unusual. FIFA allowed the qualifying teams to make 11 substitutions per friendly match in this window. To me, it makes no sense. So we saw a different team altogether. I can only go by guessing which is going to be the starting 11 come June 12th against Paraguay. I think the U.S. has a very good team. I liked what I saw in terms of the form of the players that hadn't played a lot lately because of injuries, etc. Serginho Dest, he looked, to be ready for the competition. Christian Pulisic, he scored, and, he had a terrible semester at Milan in Italy. He looked sharp. Ricardo Pepi looked awesome, but I don't know if, the coach is going to start him or Balogun up front. Balogun came in the second half, and he scored as well. So, you have to take it case by case. I think Paraguay is going to be a very tough team to beat. They defend very, very well. The U.S., to answer the question, has very good players on its roster. They were all uneven getting to camp, uneven in the sense of physical form, soccer form, and confidence form. So in all these days that Pochettino has had them in the new training ground in Atlanta, preparing the game in Charlotte and the one in Chicago against Germany, I think he will be able to even out the field. And then, he will have to confer to his pillow the night of the 11th to make sure he puts the best 11 players in the starting roster the next day.
So the U.S. is obviously going to play at SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles. First game on June the 12th against Paraguay. Is it a benefit, or does it hurt that the U.S. is playing here in North America and here in the United States? In other words, is there more pressure because you're playing at home, or is there a benefit to it?
Both. There is always pressure on the home team to do well, but then I think it's a plus that they get to play at home in front of a very pro-U.S. soccer crowd. I saw this in Charlotte. Charlotte, even though it's not a World Cup city, it was magnificent. There were 57,000 people, I would say 50,000 American fans with their jerseys, with the American flags, cheering on their players and their team. And I can go back to 1994 and tell you, even though I don't know if the the crowd was as soccer savvy as they are today. But I mean, the atmosphere in each soccer venue where the U.S. national team of that time played was terrific, and I expect the same and even more this time. I think SoFi is going to be, a red, white, and blue party cheering the U.S. on. Hopefully, they will win the game. Hopefully, at the end of this tournament, if they make it to the quarterfinals or the semis, why not? We will have new American heroes as athletes, not only, the NBA stars, the NFL stars, or MLB stars. Maybe Pulisic or Pepe or Balogun, or Weston McKennie or Tyler Adams, they'll jump into the discussion of, American pop culture as, a very well-known athlete.
You've called so many World Cup matches. 4 years ago, where does the 2022 Argentina-France championship match fall in terms of the greatest matches you've ever called?
That was the greatest final that was ever played, for sure. There was not an instance in any of the finals of the World Cup where one team dominated another one so much as Argentina did France, and we're talking about the defending champion. They outplayed them for 75 minutes with almost a perfect game, and then they fucked it up in 2 minutes. And Kylian Mbappe scored, 2 goals within 3 minutes, and everything turned crazy because it was, give and take. France could have won it. Argentina ended up winning it on penalties. But all in all, I think it was the best final of all times.
Now, again, you were originally, as a kid, you were in Buenos Aires. You came to the United States. I'm wondering what it meant to see Messi hoist that World Cup for you.
It meant pretty much everything. In Argentina, we take soccer as a religion, and the World Cup is the ultimate prize. Messi has won way, way, way too many more championships, Champions League, etc., than Diego Maradona did in his time. And yet he wasn't able to sit down in the same table as Diego, because Maradona won the World Cup in '96 for Argentina. So, Messi lifting the World Cup trophy, it was, even though he had won 2 Copa Americas before, which is a regional tournament very important and very dear to all South Americans, the World Cup was still out there without having, his hands on the trophy. So it meant everything to him, to Argentina, to everyone that follows Argentinian soccer. So I think Messi now can sit in Maradona's table without any hesitation.
So Messi and Argentina, Ronaldo and Portugal, these guys this is their final World Cup. Can both of those teams make a run, do you think?
Yes, I think so. This will be the last dance for 2 of the greatest footballers of all times. I will not enter into the discussion of who is better, Cristiano or Messi. They're both super incredible soccer players, each with its own style of play. Portugal has a terrific team. If there is a team that can surprise the world, and again, it wouldn't be a total surprise because of the quality of players that they have, including Cristiano Ronaldo, Portugal will be that team, I think, that can go farthest in this World Cup without being one of the top favorites. I think the top favorites is France, it's Argentina, it's Spain for sure, England, even Brazil. But Portugal has to be up there. So it would be a surprise in the sense that all the other countries I just named already won World Cups and Portugal hasn't. But Portugal has a great team. And Argentina, it's very, very tough to repeat, back-to-back titles. But if the Argentinian players get fit, because they're already in Kansas City and they have 8 players are carrying injuries and they're not training at full speed with the rest of the group. If they get them fit and ready to go by the opening match, I think they're going to have a good run.
What are a couple of the teams that nobody's talking about that you think we will wind up talking about? Teams that could go deep into the tournament, the dark horses.
I don't see any dark horses per se. I was saying before I saw them live with my own eyes, but again, it was one of those weird games with so many substitutions. I like the way Senegal played the African Cup. I like the way Senegal played a friendly in the March window in London against Brazil. I think they have terrific players. They're in the group of death with France, Senegal, and Iraq. With France, Norway, and Iraq. I think Senegal can go far. I think Colombia can surprise many people. Colombia has a very solid team. They've been playing very good throughout World Cup qualifying. They have their ups and downs, but they have terrific players. I think they have one of the best European players in Luis Diaz. So I think there's a lot of confidence on Colombia. Maybe they'll go far, or they'll most likely they will go the farthest they've gone. So I don't see really too many others that could really surprise the world.
I'm wondering, just silly question, how many times a day does somebody ask you to do the goal call, and how do you react to that?
I react now that we're so close to the World Cup, saying I have to take care of my voice. Yeah, I gotta take care of my voice. But it's not that they ask me. They do ask me, but usually when they encounter me, they start yelling themselves. Yeah. So, and sometimes they ask me. But what's happened since 2022 to now is that people not only start yelling goal, but the reference is that I made them cry with my goal call of the Argentina winning penalty kick. I broke down emotionally and was trying to hold from really crying on national television. So that was very flattering, because the first thing that I get is that I moved them so much that I made them, cry as well.
There are countries that are in the World Cup, soccer countries, who have great sort of traditions, national traditions. Is there any that jumps out at you? Like, who's got the coolest, for the fans, national tradition?
Well, I'm going to be extremely biased here. Argentina has, the coolest fan base. They're very, very creative in the chants. People will hear the music, but every song that the Argentinian fans sing has a meaning. It's like the lyrics of a good song, actually. We're very passionate. That doesn't say that the Brazilians don't, or Colombia. Just wait until you see Colombians. They packed every single stadium in Russia. They packed every single stadium in the U.S. when they played Copa America last year and 2 years ago. They packed stadiums in Australia, where I was for the Women's World Cup, rooting for their women's national team. They all go out with their yellow jerseys. They're very vocal, very loud. Mexico has a great fan base. They will be loud. And come the World Cup, you will see either large or just the pockets of fans from emerging nations like Curacao or Haiti. You will see what it will be, a mix of fandom, of culture, of tradition, of everything that the World Cup means to the world. You're not just there with your country's color to cheer on. Obviously you're there to cheer on your national team, but you're there also to show the sense of pride on your country, especially for those that, immigrants that live here and will go support their countries of birth.
So I think I have this right. You've done 14 World Cups. This will be your 15th?
It will be my 15th in attendance. It will be my 12th working the Men's World Cup, yes.
And what's your, do you still feel that sort of magic? Do you still feel that sort of anticipation that you always have?
Yes. Oh, I just can't believe I have in my office, I have a countdown clock that I bought, I think, a year and a half ago. And it is right in front of me. And I looked, 400 days, 300 days. And yesterday it dawned on me when it said 8 days to go. I said, whoa.
Right.
And obviously, with all the prep, with all the, with all the anticipation and all the logistics of my travels and getting ready to go, I can't wait. I can't wait, Steve. I'm excited as much today as I was when I was in my first World Cup as a written journalist in 1986 or my first TV gig in 1990.
Well, you are a legend, sir, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Really excited for the World Cup, and I cannot wait to hear you call your first goal.
I will be there in Los Angeles at SoFi. Hopefully it will be, my Paraguayan loyal viewers will get mad, but either it will be Paraguay or the U.S. That will be my first game on Telemundo Peacock en Español. I hope everyone watches. We have a saying at Telemundo that football is better en Español, in Spanish. So if you allow me the invitation, I hope everyone can join in and have fun with us.
Well, have a great tournament. Loved you doing this, and again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Who doesn't know that goal call? Seriously, that goal call is legendary. What a nice man, doing so many of the games. I cannot believe in '94 he did all 104 World Cup games. That's just insane. But he will be doing USA versus Paraguay Thursday night at SoFi Stadium. And his picks for the tournament, he says he will be surprised if the Final Four doesn't include Spain, France, England, Argentina, Portugal in some combination. So that is Andrés Cantor in his preview of the World Cup tournament. And you can expect to hear those goal calls coming very, very soon. By the way, Mason Plus is brought to you by my friend Jacob Emrani. You know what? I trust this guy. If you're in Southern California, you have an accident like I did here on the 10 freeway last year. If you're in an accident, I trusted him. You can trust him too. Jacob Emrani, 800-345-6789. That's 800-345-6789 or call jacob.com. All right, so we got Andrés Cantor's perspective. Now, I want to bring into the mix the voice of LAFC, Dave Denholm, and Pepe Mantilla, Spanish language voice of the Lakers. You know him from Mason in Ireland, and he is a World Cup fanatic. Here is that conversation. Dave, Pepe, how you guys doing?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. And seeing and talking to Dave is always a pleasure.
Doing great. Thanks so much, Pepe and Steve. I appreciate the invite.
So World Cup time, and I actually love the World Cup when it comes around every 4 years. I always get into it, but I'm not a soccer authority or a soccer historian. You guys kind of are both of those things. I kind of want to start with Pepe, because you have talked about your World Cup experience on Mason in Ireland a number of times. There's not really room to talk because Michael won't shut up, but now you've got the floor. Describe your World Cup history, Pepe.
Well, when you're born in a country where soccer is king, which is, among other countries, Mexico, soccer is a national sport. So, you learn to play soccer, even if you're not that good, but that's what you do every day with your buddies in the street or whatever. And then you go to games, and then eventually you follow the World Cup, you follow international games. And I was really super lucky, to tell you the truth, because when I was growing up in Mexico, Brazilian teams and teams from Argentina used to come every year. Among the Brazilian teams was Santos. Santos was the team that Pelé played for Santos. And back in the day, I mean, Brazil was really amazing, and just watching Pelé and those players, it was amazing. We used to go outside and play soccer in the street, and we pretend that we were Brazil playing, and Pelé takes the ball and all that, And I was really, like I said, lucky enough to watch personally the World Cup in 1970 in Mexico, and I got to see lots of great games. And I went to the final in 1970. To me, that's the best final ever. Brazil versus Italy. Brazil was playing like you could put music, and those guys were like ballet, playing soccer ballet. And then I told you both that I was lucky enough to, when I came to the States, and then I started working for an airline, so I got the chance to go to 7 World Cups in a row.
Wow.
Some of them I went as a fan, and then eventually when I became like a reporter, I started reporting from the World Cups in Mexico, 86, in Italy in 1990, and in 1994 in the U.S., and that was good enough for me because that's when I was deeply involved with Lakers and other sports, and I couldn't go to France. But 7 World Cups, the best World Cups, it is great for me. But let me tell you something, okay, really. Yeah, soccer wasn't popular in the United States in the 70s. If you wanted to watch the World Cup, it was really hard to do it. If you wanted to watch games that were played before the World Cup, you have to pay to go watch them, like at the Olympic Auditorium and places like that. Now we can see every game in Spanish or in English, or we can listen in radio. And Fox is broadcasting all the games, and then Telemundo is broadcasting all the games. And for the people, and we love soccer, that's like fantastic.
Yeah. Dave, what about you? What is your experience? I'm guessing you don't go back to 1970.
It's interesting that Pepe says that, though, because I do remember growing up in Ohio, Steve, much like you, Northeast Ohio. We were supposed to kind of hate soccer in the 70s for no good reason, really. Just like, we kind of mocked it. It was all about American football, of course, and baseball and basketball, the big three. And we were almost supposed to hate it for no reason. I didn't really know much about it, didn't play it until I got a little bit older. My origin story is interesting because it is that 1994 World Cup here in the U.S. I had kind of heard about the 1990 qualification where we made the World Cup for the first time in a long time. The Paul Caligiuri scoring a goal. It sent us to Italy. We got swamped in the 1990 World Cup. We were not ready. But then we got the hosting for 94, and I knew it was coming. And I also, being a young man in my 20s, early 20s, I knew we were going to then have a professional league, and I love professional sports. So I knew MLS was coming after the World Cup of 94. So I jumped all in. I just could not get enough of soccer in that 1994 World Cup. Of course, we had a good tournament, and that cemented my fandom. And I just started following it really like it was baseball, football, or basketball from that day on. So it was bringing the World Cup here that really made a difference in my soccer fandom.
So given that the World Cup is in North America now, Mexico, Canada, and the United States, what's the impact of that, do you think, Pepe, on here in Los Angeles and across the U.S.?
Well, the World Cup is a big fiesta. It's supposed to be a big fiesta, okay? Needless to say that in Mexico, 2 World Cups, and I was there, is my country. It was the best for me. But I was in Spain in 1982, okay? And that to me was the best because of the people outside of Mexico, because of the people. They were, everything was happy. Things were happening. Brazil was there. Argentina was there. Italy won the World Cup that year. The organization wasn't that good, but the World Cup and the streets, that was fantastic. In 1994, I was expecting something like that here. Unfortunately, it wasn't because soccer wasn't that popular. I'm hoping that for this World Cup here in the States, it's going to be different because now everybody likes soccer a lot because we have two great teams in Los Angeles, because we have the league and we get to see every game. We just saw a great game on Saturday between PSG and Arsenal, and everybody could watch that,
Dave, what about you? Impact on the U.S. with the World Cup here in North America?
I think it's going to be very massive, but, it already is such a big sport. This is not like 94, where a lot of us didn't know anything about soccer. I mean, you even say, oh, I'm not a big soccer. You know more about soccer than people did back in 1990.
Absolutely. Certainly more than I knew back in 1994. I mean, Dave, you've been a soccer guy from day one. I've known you to be a soccer guy, so I know you go way back with this. And I would imagine that it's a world away from 1994 because the sport has evolved. It has grown in the U.S. So many kids play soccer. MLS, obviously. You've got LAFC. Does this expand that footprint in America?
Yeah, it's gasoline on the fire, really, because the fire is burning, essentially. We didn't have a fire back in 1994. That's when it started. You were lighting it. It was like you're playing Survivor, right? Now the fire is going. It's been going for decades, and the game has just exploded. It's funny, Steve, we've known each other a very long time. I used to be mocked on English radio for talking about soccer.
I may have
L.A., and now it's like everybody, you guys know it. You guys know what's going on, and it's just part of mainstream now. So it's only going to just ignite I think it's good for the younger kids too, to see it in our region, as you say, North and North America with Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., all over these three great soccer countries, great footballing nations. It's just going to really be beneficial for that very young generation to get to see World Cup games with their own eyes, in their own stadiums, in their own cities, and even traveling a little bit, going around the country. It's going to be awesome for the young generation. I think the rest of us, certainly it will help. It'll catch fans, as you say. Everybody loves the World Cup, and once you get that fever, so it will help everyone. But I think it's great for just that next young generation to come up in this country and turn it into, just take it to another level.
One of the things I learned as I was getting ready to talk to you guys is that the field has expanded to 48 this year. Does that mean there are more deserving teams getting in, or does that mean that we're watering down the talent in the World Cup? Start with you, Dave.
Actually, yes and yes. It's a great question because I think what it does is, look, there's going to be some teams that are going to get run over because this has been set up where qualifying, how qualifying goes for years, and it's so hard to qualify when there's 32 teams. It was a little easier this time for a few, not terribly easy. There's still 200 nations that play football, so it's not as though you're letting everybody in. But there are some countries that are going to get beat up a bit. But it's good for the long term, even in those countries, right? Haiti is back in the World Cup. They haven't been there for 50 plus years, and what that country's gone through, they're going to have that experience now. This whole new, it's a country that hasn't seen the World Cup for, like I said, 50 years, and all they're going through, maybe sports can give them just a moment of joy, and just to bring it to that younger people who have never seen it in Haiti, this World Cup experience. Curacao, just such a small country, they get in. Yeah, they might take their lumps, Steve, but what does that do for all these small countries that think, hey, we got a chance now, and we never had a chance before, and that grows the game around the world, not just in the big nations that already are dominant in the sport.
Pepe, how do you feel about expanding the field to 48?
That is a very good point, Dave. Although I don't agree with expanding it to 48 teams, because the World Cup really is going to start when we get to maybe 32, and I'm going to be very, very conservative, but I will love it when it gets to the real good ones. And then you have surprises, because last World Cup, nobody was expecting Morocco to get as far as they got, okay? But, I mean, it's watering down, it's business. The online is business, okay? So they make it a big business, and then FIFA is a very controlling organization. Okay, they said we're gonna do it like this, whether you like it or not, and you're really lucky to be able to have the World Cup, which is good. It's fantastic, and I agree with the thing that you said about the small countries. But at the same time, we have groups like Argentina, the group from Argentina, Group J, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. Then you say, well, that is a very easy group. And then you got really hard groups like the Germany group with Ecuador. That is much harder.
Right. Here's where I disagree a little bit with Pepe. And my logic is this. There's only been 8 countries that have ever won the World Cup, I think, right? It's not a huge list anyway. So the World Cup doesn't usually start till, as Pepe said, it's a good line, it doesn't start until maybe the round of 16 or even the quarterfinals most of the time, because it is a lot of chalk that goes all the way. Like, these are nations that are dominating football. So you expanded to kind of get everybody else. Yeah, of course, Curacao can't win the World Cup, but what if they win a game? What is that for the nations that are their size? What if Austria does, make an upset or two and they're into the round of 16 and all of a sudden they have a chance? I was with Pepe. I didn't like it when they first expanded there. I was vehemently against it, and I made my no bones about it on the air. But I've come around because of the stories. We all love underdogs, at least I do, and I'm going to be rooting for teams. And underdogs is kind of relative too. There's even, like Pepe said, in Ecuador, of course they're a good team. They're not like some major underdog, but it's still fun to root. Maybe that's my second team. Of course I'm USA, but maybe I'll pick up another team to kind of root for. And now you have more choices too.
Yeah. So I'm from America. You guys, America. I'm looking at this field and I'm saying, all right, U.S. men's national team. We did well in 1930. Finished third.
That's right.
Pretty quiet ever since. The guy everybody knows is obviously Christian Pulisic, who's probably the face of American soccer, I would think. What chance do you give the U.S. in this tournament? Can they advance to the knockout round?
I think they can. I think the group for USA is one that is also kind of easy, except for Paraguay. Okay,
yeah.
People are saying USA Paraguay is an easy match. It's not an easy match. Paraguay is a very good team, but then they have Australia and they have Turkey. That group is not that easy because Turkey and Australia can play football. Okay, it's not like Curacao and Haiti, but I think they're gonna go ahead because they have a good team. They've been playing for a long time soccer in the United States. In 1994, Bora Milutinovic was the coach, and Bora got the team to the next round. Nobody was believing in that team, and they beat Colombia. And then they went to the next round. They lost against Brazil, who Brazil ended up being the champion. So we have to remember that. And we have to remember, and Dave, you know this, okay? Because and you too, Steve, because when you go to LAFC, you see how the people are marching to the stadium. Same thing happened to Galaxy. If you go to a game in Seattle, the march is super long. I went one day with my son because he lives over there. He said, let's go to the march. And I said, first and last time that I do it because those guys walk a lot, okay? But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's like they're getting the fever. And that fever is going to translate in a very good situation for the United States and this World Cup.
Dave, what do you think? Does the U.S. advance to the knockout round?
Couldn't agree more. I think they're going to go a lot farther than that. At least they can.
Really?
Now, here's the thing I tell people, and Pepe and I have had this conversation too. Steve, the U.S. has beaten every nation in football, the best, right? We've beaten them at some point. I mean, that's just the way it is. We're not like the 100th rated team. We're in the top 15 or 20.
Yeah, we ain't Curacao.
No, we've beaten everybody at some point, but we've lost to so many teams too. That's the tricky part. Like, as Pepe pointed out, it's a tricky group. The U.S. is the best team in the group, but Turkey has a couple of the best players in the group. Australia is hard to beat. Paraguay is really tough. So it's a group that's trickier than people think. The U.S. should get out, no question. And I think they can go a long way because of what Pepe's saying. The home field advantage in world football, and especially at a World Cup, is massive. And I think it's going to be huge for Mexico and Canada, too. I mean, Mexico, I expect El Tri. They're not the most talented Mexican team we've ever seen, but I expect them to do very well on home soil, too.
So Spain and France are basically co-favorites to win it all, according to betting markets and all that stuff. I know France has Kylian Mbappe, but what about Spain? Do you agree that they should be the co-favorites, Dave?
Yes, absolutely. They have talent everywhere on the pitch. Lamine Yamal is a young, just absolute superstar. He's not even a superstar on the rise. He's just a superstar, even though he's young, and he's just already established himself with Spain. And they're so good. They're so deep. It's just an embarrassment of riches, frankly, everywhere you look. Now, again, there's a handful of teams, including France and a couple of more, that certainly could trip them up. There's no guarantee. But yes, those two definitely deserve to be mentioned. I think France is absolutely loaded. I mean, France could probably send 3 or 4 full World Cup squads, and they'd be very good with all of them getting through. I don't know if Pepe agrees with that, but those teams definitely deserve to be listed among the very best.
Pepe, Spain and France, what do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think that, I'm going to be rooting for the U.S. and for Mexico, obviously. But other than that, I'll be rooting for Spain. Spain has a great team, and I love to see Jamal playing. Now, Portugal has a really good team, Dave, and Ronaldo is playing his last World Cup as well as Messi and Neymar and all that. Argentina has a really good team, but if you see the players that play for Portugal, they're all over the world in great teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if Portugal gets far.
No, I like that shout. Vitinho can handle the ball and he can run a game, and Portugal they will beat you with death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. They will have the ball. They will absolutely exploit whatever weakness you have. That's a good shout, no question. And, with Argentina, the only thing I think Lionel Messi's still the best player in the world. He's just incredible. But when you win it, we know in sports, it happens in the U.S., it's hard to repeat, and I know it's been 4 years and all. It's a little bit different team. But it's very difficult to do it again. And I think Argentina is going to have a pretty steep hill to climb, though they are certainly capable, no doubt.
Give me a couple of names of players that we might not know now who you think could become big stars during this tournament. Who comes to mind?
Go ahead, Dave.
I love that shout. Well, maybe for fans who don't, follow it as closely, because these names are going to be very familiar to people who are really deep into it. But there's a player that is in the United States' group, Arda Güler, who's a very young player. He's already at the top of his game, though. Plays for Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in the world. But he is so good and so young and just absolutely does anything he wants on the pitch. It's going to be a real challenge for anybody who plays him. Now, here's the thing. Turkey as a team is not that strong overall in terms of but they've made some runs in the past. They've been dangerous, and they're a team that's hard to beat, and he is just so special. So that's a name that, yes, is certainly a big name in world football, but if you're someone who loves the World Cup and you're just getting into it, maybe keep an ear out or an eye out for Arda Güler with Turkey. Now, for the United States, there's some young players that certainly could stand out. I certainly love Balogun up front. He's going to be, in all likelihood, our starter as the striker in this tournament, and he's going to have a big tournament. He plays overseas. Maybe a lot of people don't know about him here in the United States as much, but he is a very tough player also to keep an eye on.
Pepe, what do you think?
I really like, and this is, a lot of people don't know who this player is, okay? But probably by now they know Vitinha. I love the way Vitinha plays. Vitinha plays for PSG, and he was the engine of PSG and beating Arsenal. He's really calm. He's really good. I really like him. But, in the World Cup, you always, there's going to be players that we don't even know who they are, and they're going to be playing their best, and we're all going to be happy about this. Now, Steve, one thing that I want to mention, and it's really important, is the rules. Dave, you know about this. New rules that I love these rules, okay? For the throw-ins, they're going to have 5 seconds, like in basketball, okay? You have to throw the ball in 5 seconds, which is fantastic because that way they cannot just milk the game. Okay.
Right.
The goalie is going to have, I think, 5 seconds to kick the ball. And the substitutions, 10 seconds. Because sometimes the substitutions, they walk all the way, wasting time. So 10 seconds. If you don't do it in 10 seconds, the players that is supposed to come and replace you is going to have to wait 1 minute outside before they can enter. So your team is going to be playing with 10 men. Nobody wants that because 1 minute in the World Cup can make the difference.
Sure. It sounds like those are rules to speed things up or to not waste time, I guess, right?
Exactly. In fact, the World Cup has been really good about that, Steve, where they've put these rules in because they made sure last World Cup you would have 13 minutes of stoppage time in the first half because they felt people were wasting too much time and they wanted to get all the playing time they could out of this tournament, of course, and they wanted to make it fair. So they were adding 13 minutes to each half, to make sure. And it really worked. As the tournament went on, teams started to waste time less and less. And, by the end, it was back to the normal 3 or 4 minutes after, how the referee handles the stoppage time. And so it wasn't but they put the hammer down early. And I hope they do that again to start this tournament. Now, these rules will certainly help as well. But I think people want to see action, especially when this tournament is for the world, literally. I know that it sounds cliche, but this is not just for diehard soccer fans, right? This is like the Super Bowl times, they call it the Super Bowl times 104, basically, the 100 exactly. The World Cup. So you want to invite everybody into this sport, and to have guys just passing the ball around, wasting time on a throw-in, between teammates, and the referee just letting them do it, that doesn't fly, let's keep it moving. I agree with Pepe. These rules have really been good, and I really hope they put the hammer down on these things because it will help.
Okay, so go ahead, Pepe.
I think it's going to work fine if the refs apply the rules because the rule on the goalie, if the goalie doesn't kick the ball, then the other team is going to get a corner kick, and a corner kick could be a goal, you know?
Sure. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you 2 out questions here, and I'll tell you what they are in advance so you can think up something. I'm going to ask you the winner and your favorite dark horse. Winner and favorite dark horse. Dave, what comes to mind for you?
Well, my winner is Spain. I know that's the chalk, but I did pick them beforehand, and I do think they are the most talented team. I think they're the best team in the world, and I think they will play that way. My dark horse is going to sound like this is not because of who I'm...
Oh, wait a minute. Are you going to say America?
It is the United States, yes. And I'll tell you why, because I expect them, in my estimation, to get to the quarterfinals. I really do. Wow. Yes, I do. And certainly the crowds will help. The home field advantage, that is a huge part. But this is a talented team. It's maybe the most talented team we've ever had. I don't think that's a real stretch to say that. But they still have to put it together. We could flame out, there's no doubt. But I do think if you get that far, look, if you get to the quarterfinals, Steve, right, you can win. I mean, sure. I mean, why not on any given day? Now, that doesn't mean they're going to. I know they're still a long shot, but that's what you're asking for. That's my dark horse, the United States. And I wouldn't count out Mexico going a long way in this tournament either. I know a lot of people are, even the Mexican faithful, are kind of down on this team or have been. I think they could do a lot of damage in this tournament. And those are my 2. It sounds like I'm a homer for the backyard gang here, the U.S. and Mexico, but I really believe that's how important these home fields are. When you're the host, like these teams are, it's going to be a massive advantage this summer.
Pepe, winner and dark horse.
I agree on Spain. I think Spain is going to be the winner. I think, but lots of surprises in the World Cups. Okay, lots of things can happen. And the dark horse, I wouldn't mind Mexico because I'm Mexican. Sure. But I think a team that nobody's paying attention, and then they're flying under the radar, is the Netherlands. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Netherlands have been in the finals, I believe, 3 times. Okay. And they lost all 3 times. So maybe this time they're going to wake up and then put on a really good team and then surprise everybody. I wouldn't mind if the United States or Mexico get really far because that will be fantastic. Even Canada. Canada has a good team too, Dave. And I think that they want to prove it to everybody that they're present in this World Cup.
But my recollection of the Netherlands is that the Dutch flop a lot. Is that fair to say?
Everybody, everyone.
Everybody?
That's a good shout. Yeah, it's a good shout, though. I like that. The thing about Canada is they've been very injured. They have a lot of talent.
That's true.
Boy, they're really trying to get over some injuries to key players. If they can do that, if they can show up with their best, 18 guys really ready to go throughout this tournament, rotation, have some subs available that are really fresh and good, they can do damage. I'm a little concerned about their injuries, but if they can pull that together, Jesse Marsch is a great coach, an American who's done a great job with Canada. They could be a danger too.
One thing that is interesting, and I was checking, and I've been checking on this, is that if Mexico advances, they might play at SoFi Stadium.
Oh, really?
At one point.
God.
Have you checked on that? Have you checked on that, Dave? They might play at SoFi Stadium. Just imagine that, okay?
Oh, that would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Really crazy. Yeah.
Realistically, one of the biggest sporting events in LA history at that point. I know that that seems like hyperbole, but to have Mexico in a knockout game that deep in the World Cup, forget about it. That's
just crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, guys, this has been fantastic. Spain is the team to watch. I like your opinion of the team, the American team, maybe getting into the quarterfinals. That would be incredible. Dave Denholm, voice of LAFC, Pepe Mantilla, the guy who's been to 7 World Cups. Thank you guys very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
I did want to mention real quick, Steve, we are doing the World Cup show. Mario Rees and I are doing the World Cup show for 710 ESPN, doing that weekly as we keep going. We'll let you know on socials where that is, what day and everything each week, but because we're going to try to keep it around some U.S., Mexico matches, keep it close to those. Yeah, that's going to be going on for 710, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome. I will be listening. Guys, thanks a lot.
Me too. Thank you.
There you have it. There are the thoughts from Pepe Mantilla and Dave Denholm. Again, they are all over Spain to win the whole thing. They like Spain. They like France. Those are kind of their two teams. And Dave Denholm, interestingly, says he thinks the U.S. men's national team could make a little run. We are going to find out. That would be unbelievably fun here in Los Angeles to see the USA beat Paraguay and continue and make it to the quarterfinals, make it to the knockout round. We will all be watching the World Cup as it comes to North America. Thank you to Andrés Cantor. Thank you to Dave Denholm. Thank you to Pepe Mantilla. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and if you go down underneath, you can give me your picks for the World Cup. Tell me who the Final Four is going to be at this year's World Cup. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star rating, and those reviews are really, really important. There you have it. There's your Mason Plus for this week. Enjoy the World Cup. I will talk to all you guys soon.